Hello folks, and welcome to another edition of the Kaijucopia. We're falling a little bit behind here. We keep on trudging along with watching the actual movies on this journey in which we watch every single Godzilla flick, primarily based on Godzilla, from the very first incarnation all the way up to modern day. But we've been falling short of getting the videos done. So for this video, we are reviewing the Son of Godzilla, the debut of Manila, the little baby Godzilla that makes that ever adorable yet annoying sound. Am I doing that right? I think I'm doing it right. Either way, well, we'll get to practice on it. Well, with this journey here, we started out with this movie. We'll just dive right into it, folks, because I'm trying to catch up on my lunch break in order to get these videos hammered out on time before we get too far ahead of ourselves in terms of watching the movies, but not going back and actually properly reviewing what happened while the events are still fresh in my memory. But we started out with this apparently having some sort of a government project happening in the middle of nowhere on this remote island that seems to be surrounded by giant praying mantises. They're not giant in the form of what we've been seeing in terms of the kaijus of Godzilla, Rodan, and what have you, but these things are still probably about the size of SUVs apiece, and just roaming around, causing interference and trouble for the humans that are working on a weather machine that is going to help solve droughts and problems with deserts and tundra and whatever by manipulating the weather patterns around the world. And I honestly can't see how that could ever possibly go wrong, knowing what we know now about the ecosystem. Well, with that, there seems to be an issue with the experiments going on where the humans can't seem to get the proper testing or analytical data finished, as there's some sort of interference happening with their system, and we are later revealed that it is in fact the egg of baby Godzilla that is causing this interference, as they attempt to do a launching of the weather machine with their weather balloons, and something goes terribly, terribly wrong with the execution, which instead of causing a winter-like effect is what they're going for, it instead causes extreme heat of 150 degrees Fahrenheit or higher for several days, which in a nifty little course of events caused a hyper-evolution of the already oversized praying mantises to now actually be ginormous kaiju-sized monstrosities. And the mantises, now with the ability to finally dig through a mountainside in order to find this delicious, delicious Godzilla baby egg, they are able to crack the egg and expose the infant baby Godzilla. And Godzilla arrives in the nick of time, none too happy about the fact that his baby almost got ate by a bunch of praying mantises. And honestly, if you've seen praying mantises in real life and what they eat and how they just chew through their prey, I definitely was not a fan of having to watch that go through on poor baby Godzilla. So good on Godzilla for saving the day for his son. Well, in that regard, we got to have several rather humorous shenanigans. As a father myself, I was able to relate to the handling of temper tantrums, as well as trying to help train little baby Godzilla to be self-sufficient and to being able to defend itself against those bully giant praying mantises. Because I hate it when my son is getting bullied by giant praying mantises. It happens all the time out here in rural California. You would not believe the insanity we have to deal with. And we don't have a Godzilla to save ourselves either, so, it gets really rough out here. We've lost many lives. It's rather tragic. Either way, moving on. There is an actual primary antagonist in this kaiju film, in which, because we see Godzilla essentially just beating the stuffing out of these giant praying mantises. He does a body slam to one of them, straight up WWE style, flying elbow drops off the top rope. Not really, but that would be really sweet, wouldn't it? I mean, let me tell you. If you want to snap into a Slim Jim, just go back to one of our other videos and reminisce about Godzilla snapping off the lobster arms of Ibira and getting himself a nice little snack. He does not eat these mantises, however. But back to the primary antagonist of the movie, it is revealed there is another giant creature that is living underneath the surface in the cavernous systems by the name of Kumonga. It was a giant spider, and I have to say, I was really impressed. I really enjoyed the cinematography of this particular adaptation of this giant spider. It wasn't really clear to me what kind of a spider we're dealing with, but he had webbing that apparently caused its prey to be stunned and or go to sleep, which is, I'm told, is actually, relevant to what some species and genomes of spiders are capable of doing. But just the way that this thing moved around and the noises it made, it really encapsulated that feeling of running into a giant spider and the terror that you would experience from having to deal with that, as the humans are eventually trapped in their cave in which they're trying to do experiments by Kumonga, who's just going around just wantonly eating like anything that gets in his way. Doesn't care if it's a human, doesn't care if it's the other praying mantises that are still around, doesn't care if it's baby Godzilla or big Godzilla. Kumonga is just a hungry spider. And you climb up the water spout and you got burned to a crisp by the sun that is reminiscent of Godzilla's flame breath that flies down on him and just barbecues the poor giant spider. Well, I'd say poor giant spider, but they do this really elongated scene where the spider just slowly but surely, just wrapping up baby Godzilla in its webbing, and wraps up a giant mantis in the webbing, and then it just has like this pincer-like thing that shoots out of its mouth and just utterly paralyzes and murders the last remaining giant mantis. He's about to do the same thing to baby Godzilla, and then from there, during the fight with Godzilla, just when you think that he's got the giant spider defeated, it's a rather unfortunate side effect of having to try to do these videos out in public on your lunch break, is you have people that need to be driving. They need to get out of here before the giant praying mantises come. I tell you, it's a real threat. Real serious business here. But either way, he pokes Godzilla in the eye with his poison stinger, which thankfully does not kill our king of the monsters. It only really minorly inconveniences him. But that was a pretty good, pretty I would say, if you could use the word realistic fight between Godzilla and a giant spider, then that was pretty much as close to, real as you're going to get. But either way, Godzilla eventually defeats the giant spider. I really enjoyed also the scenery they used for this fight between the two of them, as the humans eventually were able to succeed in their experiment of the weather balloons and blowing them up and causing pretty much a nuclear winter on this island. So you have like Kumonga's spider webbing just like all over the place, all over the trees and the flora and the fauna, and the snow is just like flurrying down all around them as they're still brawling, and it's just like it's a nice iconic beat 'em up kaiju scene, and that's the kind of stuff that we want to see with our Godzilla movies for sure. It's just things that, once you get to the nitty gritty, you get past all the human drama and stuff like that, that is interesting in its own way, but we all know the real reason you're watching a Godzilla movie, and that is to see giant kaiju beat the stuffing out of each other. In this case, might actually have been a real concern, as Godzilla was looking pretty chonkers in this movie. His thighs, it's moving around. He's just looked like he was looking kind of baggy. Might have put on a couple of extra pounds. Again, as a parent, I sympathize. I relate. And, I have solidarity with Godzilla and his problems dealing with baby Godzilla, as we have a very sad scene as baby Godzilla is just completely exhausted from getting beat up by all the other monsters, and Godzilla has to turn around. Instead of riding off into the sunset, they embrace each other as they're completely covered in snow, as the humans remark about how they will luckily not die, but they will instead hibernate until the weather normalizes on the island. And it's just it's a very somber scene and a very bittersweet, as the father and son embrace. And I thought it was the more I think about it and dwell on it, going on in the past, there's a very powerful, imagery there. And definitely we look forward to the next movie that we'll be moving on here. We've already seen it, but we need to do a review of it. It is, of course, of the iconic, the immemorable, the unforgettable Destroy All Monsters, in which we are going to see a recurrence of virtually almost every single kaiju that we have seen thus far in every other review. And it's going to be a gush fest, folks. I'm going to be nerding out, geeking out, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be a good one. But until next time, folks, stay just Quintastic.